From the moment their whirlwind romance hit the tabloids to the day they announced their plans to marry, Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes had no shortage of headlines, paparazzi snapshots, and public fascination. Yet beneath the fairy tale images and red carpet appearances, there was something far more complex happening behind the scenes, a hidden world of personal convictions, religious influences, and mounting pressures that ultimately shaped the course of their relationship. And most crucially, the life of their daughter, Suri. Tom Cruise had long been one of Tinseltown's most bankable stars by the time he met Katie Holmes. He carried a reputation not only for his action-packed film roles and dazzling smile, but also for his profound commitment to Scientology, a religion that had become a defining part of his identity since the late 1980s. Many noted how central Scientology was to his daily life, influencing his perspectives and decisions both personally and professionally. Katie Holmes, on the other hand, was raised in a devout Catholic family in Ohio and had become America's sweetheart through her role as the girl next door, Joey Potter, on the hit TV show Dawson's Creek. Her personality was perceived as grounded and genuine, and her rise to stardom felt relatable in an industry known for excess and spectacle. When rumors first emerged that Tom and Katie were dating, the media went into a frenzy. People wanted to know how they met, how they connected, and what kind of relationship they could possibly share, given their differences in age, life experience, and religious backgrounds. Tom's love life had been a point of consistent public interest ever since his previous marriages, first to Mimi Rogers, then to Nicole Kidman, both of whom were involved to varying degrees with Scientology. The narrative of Tom bringing each romantic partner into the church loomed large in the tabloids, and many speculated whether Katie would also embrace this world. What happened next became one of the most iconic and, to some, puzzling moments in celebrity history: Tom Cruise's appearance on The Oprah Winfrey Show. It was supposed to be a typical promotional interview, but it soon escalated into an unforgettable media event. Tom leaped onto Oprah's couch in an outpouring of excitement, proclaiming his love for Katie with such unbridled enthusiasm that even Oprah seemed somewhat astonished. The clip went viral before viral videos were even common, leaving fans stunned, amused, or, in some cases, concerned about his over-the-top display. Katie, meanwhile, found herself unexpectedly in the center of a media storm fueled by Tom's exuberance. Shortly after, they announced their engagement. The speed at which their relationship progressed raised eyebrows, but the public could not look away. The idea of the vivacious and beloved Katie Holmes joining Tom Cruise on his jet-setting adventures was undeniably intriguing. A few months later, they made another startling announcement. Katie was pregnant with their first child. By that point, curiosity had exploded into full-blown obsession. How would they navigate their religious differences? Would Katie convert to Scientology, just as Nicole Kidman once had, albeit briefly? And how would they handle the press's insatiable appetite for every detail of their private lives? By the time Suri was born in April 2006, the spotlight was scorching. What made the occasion especially intriguing was the so-called silent birth that Katie reportedly underwent, a practice encouraged by Scientology. According to the teachings of its founder, L. Ron Hubbard, birth should happen in as calm and quiet an environment as possible to avoid negatively imprinting the newborn with external words or distress. While some media outlets trivialized it as a Hollywood oddity, others questioned whether Katie had genuinely chosen this approach or had it foisted upon her by Tom and his devotion to the church. Regardless, the story only intensified people's fascination. As Suri grew from an infant into a toddler, images of her emerged in the tabloids almost daily. The public seemed enchanted by her big blue eyes and fashionable outfits, often coordinated by her mother. Tom and Katie made appearances together at red carpet events, with Suri in tow, projecting an aura of a perfect, modern Hollywood family. But behind the smiles, rumors persisted that Katie was struggling with the boundaries of her new life. Former Scientologists came forward in the press to claim that she was under watchful eyes, chaperoned everywhere by individuals who might report back on her activities. Leaked stories suggested that she had minimal autonomy, that her personal decisions were continually filtered through the lens of Tom's beliefs. The tension slowly became noticeable in Katie's public demeanor. She began to appear more reserved, sometimes answering interview questions with phrases that felt forced or overly scripted. Words like amazing, incredible, and wonderful would be repeated almost mechanically when she described Tom or certain aspects of their life. Observers began to wonder if she had lost some of that down-to-earth charm that once defined her. At the same time, Tom's presence in the tabloids shifted focus from his cinematic achievements to his personal life, overshadowing even the release of big-budget films. The conversation often revolved around whether Katie was willingly embracing Scientology or whether she was slowly feeling trapped. Then came the wedding in November 2006, a lavish ceremony in Italy's Odescalchi castle that reportedly cost millions of dollars. The guest list included an array of Hollywood elite, close friends, and key members of Scientology. The ceremony itself incorporated certain Scientology customs, which were puzzling to some attendees. Katie's parents, who were deeply Catholic, harbored reservations, worried that their daughter was entering into a world that did not align with the faith in which she was raised. Still, they attended, watching their daughter marry one of the biggest stars in the world, hoping for the best despite their apprehensions. In the ensuing months and years, Katie Holmes visibly tried to adapt to her life as Mrs. Tom Cruise. She participated in some Scientology gatherings, at least publicly, and was often seen standing alongside Tom at major events. By all outward appearances, they were the picture of glamour and unity. But according to insiders, cracks were beginning to show. Accounts circulated that Katie had expressed growing concerns about how Suri would be raised and whether she would be subjected to strict Scientology teachings from a young age. Some said Katie feared that if Suri officially joined the church, she would become deeply enmeshed in a belief system Katie wasn't entirely comfortable with. Meanwhile, Tom seemed oblivious to any discord, at least when speaking to the press. He continued to share glowing words about his wife and child, showing them off proudly whenever possible. Some speculated that Tom was convinced Katie would eventually embrace Scientology fully, in the same fervent way he had. But to those who were paying close attention, it was clear that Katie's own circle, particularly her parents, remained uneasy. Whispers of a potential falling out behind closed doors grew louder. It was rumored that Katie's father, an attorney by profession, had taken steps early on to ensure that if his daughter ever needed an exit strategy, she would have the means to do so effectively. That exit strategy arrived in 2012 with shocking swiftness. Almost overnight, the media reported that Katie had filed for divorce, apparently catching Tom off guard. While celebrity breakups are common, the way Katie executed this move was anything but. According to numerous reports, she orchestrated her split from Tom like a carefully planned operation. She allegedly used burner phones so that her communications couldn't be traced, retained multiple law firms across different states to handle various legal tasks, and waited for the precise moment to strike. Within a matter of days, she had moved out, taken Suri, and filed for sole custody, all before Tom could mount any countermaneuver. The public reaction was immediate and intense. Tom Cruise, one of the most recognized faces on the planet, looked genuinely stunned. He was filming in Iceland for a movie when news of the divorce broke, and insiders noted how it overshadowed even his milestone 50th birthday. Katie's legal team made her intentions clear. She wanted to protect Suri, especially from any undue influence or control by Scientology. The speed with which the divorce was finalized, just 11 days after her filing, led many to suspect that Katie's father had meticulously prepared the prenup and subsequent legal strategies well in advance. In the aftermath of the divorce, a pattern emerged that baffled fans and observers alike. Tom Cruise, once photographed with Suri at theme parks and on movie sets, seemed to disappear from her life. Initially, there were rumors that he was heartbroken and would fight for joint custody. Yet, as the months turned into years, the pictures of Tom and Suri stopped surfacing altogether. Reports claim that Tom had the right to see his daughter for up to 10 days each month, but no evidence suggested he was exercising that option. Some allege that the Church of Scientology labels Suri a suppressive person, essentially someone who poses a threat to the church's stability. If that were the case, Tom's devotion might necessitate distancing himself from her. To the public, it was perplexing. Tom had previously been open about how much fatherhood meant to him. He'd adopted 2 children with Nicole Kidman, Connor and Isabella, both of whom remained active in Scientology. If he could maintain relationships with them, then why not with Suri? The question loomed over every new article and paparazzi snapshot of Katie and Suri walking through the streets of New York. Katie often cradled her daughter's hand, trying to give her a normal upbringing as best she could. Interviews with Katie were sparse. She chose to keep her personal life guarded, focusing on her career and the well-being of her child. In those rare instances she did speak, she made it clear that her #1 priority was protecting Suri from the public eye and the potential influences she deemed unhealthy. Time marched on, and Suri grew into a teenager, mostly out of the spotlight. She occasionally popped up in photos with Katie, and the resemblance to her father was still evident. Despite the swirling rumors, there was never an official statement from Tom or the Church of Scientology explaining his absence. Perhaps it was too sensitive a matter, or perhaps the forces at play were more complicated than outsiders could understand. The speculation ranged from religious mandates to personal choice. Maybe Tom wanted to see Suri, but was being blocked, or maybe he had chosen not to for fear of church repercussions, or perhaps Suri herself didn't want that relationship anymore. On her 18th birthday, an even more dramatic headline emerged. Suri allegedly decided to drop her father's last name, opting instead to go by Suri Noel, using her mother's middle name rather than continuing as Suri Cruise. This act, while symbolic, sent shockwaves across the celebrity landscape. Many interpreted it as a bold statement, a declaration of independence from the father who had been absent for so many of her formative years. Katie, for her part, had previously stated in interviews that she wanted Suri to lead as normal a life as possible, away from media scrutiny. But how normal could it be for someone whose parents were once the center of a tabloid firestorm? As Suri stepped into adulthood, she also stepped into a new chapter that, by all appearances, excludes her father. She enrolled in college, Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, focusing on her academic and personal growth. Reports suggested Katie was heavily involved in helping her settle into dorm life, carrying boxes and essentials up flights of stairs, just like any other mother sending her child off to the next phase of life. And Tom? He was spotted at social events, enjoying high-profile gatherings like Taylor Swift's Eras Tour, seen mingling with fellow actors and celebrities. Their lives seemed to be moving on parallel tracks, with no intersection in sight. This divergence brought up an array of questions. Do they communicate privately, out of the public eye, or is there truly no relationship left to salvage? Is Tom abiding by an unwritten or unspoken church directive? Or are there personal reasons he's chosen to remain distant? Does Suri feel a sense of loss, or has her bond with Katie and her maternal family replaced whatever connection she once had to her father? The media and fans alike can only speculate. But what stands out is the staggering contrast between Tom's outward persona, an unstoppable Hollywood star who continues to push the boundaries of cinematic stunts and set new standards for blockbusters, and his apparent absence from the life of his only biological daughter. For some, it calls into question the entire narrative of Tom's role as a father figure. He has spoken glowingly about fatherhood in interviews past, especially during the years he was raising Connor and Isabella. Indeed, both those children have remained close to Tom, and they are said to share his devotion to Scientology. Isabella married in London, and although neither Tom nor Nicole Kidman attended her wedding, she has maintained in rare interviews that she does indeed keep in touch with them. Connor, known to dabble in music and other ventures, has also been photographed with Tom occasionally. In those pictures, they seem to share a warm rapport. The difference is stark. Tom's 2 older children are Scientologists, while Suri is not. Katie Holmes, in the meantime, has done her best to build a fulfilling career post-divorce, both in front of and behind the camera, directing projects and exploring creative avenues. She has also navigated her share of romantic relationships, such as her highly private entanglement with actor Jamie Foxx. The rumored clause in her divorce settlement that supposedly barred her from publicly dating for 5 years lent an additional layer of intrigue, though it remains unconfirmed whether such a clause truly existed. Still, it's notable how secretive she was about her personal life during that period. All signs pointed to a woman who wanted to prioritize her daughter's well-being above all else. possibly to shield her from additional tabloid drama and speculation. Throughout it all, Suri's presence in the media has been carefully managed. She has rarely given interviews. Indeed, she's just now an adult, and Katie has guarded her privacy fiercely. In recent years, we've seen Suri expressing some creativity, such as lending her vocals to songs in Katie's independent films. This small glimpse hints at a budding artistic side, perhaps inherited from both parents who are, each in their own right, talented and creative. If there's one thing that seems certain, it's that Suri wants to stand on her own 2 feet, forging an identity separate from the intense spotlight that followed her family for so many years. Now that Suri is legally an adult, Tom's child support obligations have changed. Reports indicate he had been paying around $400,000 annually for her support, a figure that might be unremarkable compared to his vast fortune, but was nonetheless meaningful for Katie to secure a stable life for Suri. Many wonder if Tom will continue to contribute financially in other ways, such as paying for her college tuition or health insurance, or if that relationship, if one could call it that, has ended entirely. Indeed, some have speculated that Suri's name change was timed to coincide with the cessation of Tom's formal financial responsibilities, reinforcing the idea that she is moving forward independently. But finances aside, the emotional aspect remains the most significant question. Will Tom attempt to reach out now that Suri is an adult, free to make her own decisions about religion, personal relationships, and everything else in her life? Or has too much time passed, too many lines been drawn, for them to reconcile in any meaningful way? Some watchers of celebrity culture believe that if Tom truly wanted a relationship, he'd find a way, no matter the obstacles Scientology might place before him. Others argue that the religion's hold is strong, often framing the outside world as a dangerous or negative influence. If Suri and Katie are considered outside that circle, Tom might simply choose to remain within the safe confines of his church community. For the fans who followed this saga from the beginning, it can seem like a heartbreaking ending to what once looked like a charming family story. Yet there is a sense of empowerment in Suri's decision to carve out her own identity, particularly her choice to drop the last name Cruise and adopt Noel instead. It sends a message that she sees herself more aligned with her mother's lineage, or simply wants a fresh start that isn't overshadowed by the weight of one of Hollywood's most recognizable surnames. The unanimous sentiment is that her mother, Katie, successfully shielded her from the harshest elements of fame, giving her the quiet space to grow up and make those decisions for herself. In interviews, Katie occasionally alludes to how proud she is of Suri, describing her as a resilient and strong individual who has adapted to life changes remarkably well. She rarely mentions Tom's absence, preferring to keep the conversation focused on Suri's personal growth and achievements. Observers note that, despite intense public interest, mother and daughter have managed to cultivate a sense of normalcy, grabbing coffee in New York, strolling through parks, shopping for groceries. They look like any other tight-knit family navigating the day-to-day realities of modern life, albeit one with a swirl of paparazzi interest whenever they step outside. Meanwhile, Tom continues on his path as one of Hollywood's last true action superstars. His mission, Impossible franchise, has soared to critical and commercial heights, and he has garnered praise for pushing the boundaries with dangerous stunts, real aerial sequences, and a seemingly tireless commitment to cinematic spectacle. He's also ventured into new territory, hinting at an upcoming project that might involve filming in space. Through it all, he remains a charismatic figure whose public persona is meticulously managed. Interviews with Tom seldom touch on his personal life, let alone the topic of Suri. When asked, he often sidesteps or redirects attention back to his movies or philanthropic efforts. In the end, the story seems to be about a young woman stepping into adulthood on her own terms. Suri's turning 18 was more than just a birthday. It marked her ability to make autonomous decisions about her name, her future, and who she wants to keep in her life. She's done so in a way that speaks volumes without speaking at all, quietly and decisively moving into a world that doesn't revolve around her father's star power. Will Tom eventually decide that he can balance his devotion to Scientology with a renewed commitment to his daughter? Will Suri be open to re-establishing contact if he does attempt it, These questions remain unanswered, suspended in the same haze that has surrounded so much of the family's private affairs. One possibility is that, as Suri matures further and continues her higher education, she might revisit the idea of a relationship with her father on her own terms, perhaps with firm boundaries in place. Another is that she may feel she has already closed that chapter, especially if she believes he made little effort when it mattered most. What does seem certain is that both Katie and Suri have found a sense of peace in the life they've built together, away from the constraints and controversies that once dominated their day-to-day existence. Katie's career has taken a more independent turn, allowing her to direct and produce projects that reflect her own artistic sensibilities. She's embraced her role as a mother fiercely, and that devotion resonates in the images we see of her and Suri navigating the streets of New York with an ease that suggests genuine normalcy. In many ways, it feels like the two of them are forging a path forward that doesn't rely on Tom's presence or approval. Ultimately, the saga serves as a reminder that even in the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, real human lives are at stake. Celebrity or not, family dynamics can be fraught with conflict, religious tension, and profound heartbreak. While the public is often left piecing together fragments of truth and rumor, the individuals involved must live with the consequences of the choices they've made. In this case, Katie Holmes and Suri appear to have found stability and contentment in the decades since they parted ways with Tom. With Suri now a young adult stepping confidently into the next phase of her life, it becomes a question of whether Tom will ever take steps to be part of that life again, or whether that window has quietly but definitively closed. For more of the latest news, check out the next video.